Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and I am out for summer break. That's right, school's out for the summer. If you know, you know. Now we're jumping into it. Destiny 2 news. That's right, we are reacting to the Dev Insight, the Final Shape ability tuning preview, and you know I'm going to be reviewing tomorrow's TWID because it's got some juice coming out. This apparently has been very big news. I don't know what's going on. I've not read this, so this is going to be me reading it for the first time. Apologies if you just want me to give me the short answer, and like I'm reading. That's the bomb dollar. Hey folks, Combat Gameplay team here for a rundown of ability changes coming with the launch of the Final Shape in just a few short weeks. As a warning, this is one of our largest bounce patches in recent years, so you may want to settle in for a long read. Here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering. Updates to a large portion of the Stasis ability suite. Thank God Stasis sucks, or I mean, I'll take it back. Certain builds rock, other builds just suck. Including our new keyword, Frost Armor. Okay. I kind of like that. Could be like a Frost Knight. The near future of Well Radiance and War Dawn, and ooh. A subclass by subclass breakdown of balance changes, abilities, aspects, fragments, including, but not limited to, those with prismatic. Stasis. Let's start with Stasis. Shortly after the release of Stasis, we shifted focus to back-to-back launch of the Bungie 30th Anniversary Pack and Void 3.0, and we haven't really let up on the gas since. As a result, other than small changes we've been able to make here and there, it's been difficult to evaluate the relationship between Stasis and our other damage types and make large feature level updates to it. This was something we wanted to change with the Final Shape. In particular, we wanted to upgrade the Stasis Shard Overshield that lived on the fringes of the damage type to make it a full-on keyword that we could incorporate into builds, armor, and weapon perks. Listen, that has been the biggest problem with Stasis, that yes, we had Headstone and Chill Clip, but it wasn't synergistic as much as like Incandescent or Volt Shot. Even Repulsor Brace, Volatile Rounds, like these are like key words that like really pop. Frost Armor is a stacking buff that reduces incoming damage with greater damage reduction as your stacks increase. At launch, Frost Armor will be granted from a variety of sources, including Tectonic, Grim, Glacial, Harvest aspects, fragments, exotic armor. By default, you can build to a maximum of 5 stacks of Frost Armor that lasts 9 seconds. Okay, so it's not as good as I thought it was going to be, at least. But with the newly reworked Whisper of Rhyme fragment, Frost Armor's maximum lifetime increases to 13 seconds and can build to be a maximum of 8 stacks. Unlike the Stasis Shard Overshield, Frost Armor remains active when your super is cast, though its effectiveness is significantly lowered while your super is active. What the hell? Usually they let you survive supers, so is that just for PvP, but they don't want PvP being broken? Is that why? That seems like ass for PvE. What? That seems like ass. Okay. New Frost Armor keyword. You are fortified by layers of durable stasis matter, reducing incoming damage. Frost Armor damage resistance grows as you gain additional stacks. Reduce damage from PvE combatants by 4.5, thank you, per stack, and from enemy players by 2% per stack. So I'm gonna round those numbers up. Let's just do 4, because mathing is hard. Times up to, let's say 5. That's about 20-30% reduction. Okay. Whisper of Rhyme rework. No longer grants Stasis Overshield when collecting a Stasis Shard. Now increases the maximum duration and stack count of your Frost Armor. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's better. It's an improvement, but like, I'm thinking Strand, and like, I don't know. Strand just seems better. One long-standing piece of feedback we've received is that Stasis Shards felt too limited, requiring a specific aspect to generate, because Stasis Shards are created for all allied players at once, rather than being a shared consumed resource like Tingles or locally only resource like fire sprites, iconic traces, and void breaches, which it should just be like them. It would be easy for the number of stasis shards on the whoa. No, this is no time for my bounties. What the heck? All right, sorry, I got side railed. It would be easy for the number of stasis shards on the field to spiral out of control if it were to make their creative intrinsic to the damage type. Instead, we're increasing the number of sources that players can build into to generate them. More on this shortly. And increasing their value when collected with a harvest aspect equipped. Cool. When Tectonic, Grim, and Glacial Harvest is equipped, in addition to their previous behavior, collecting any stasis shard now grants a small amount of health and stack of frost armor. Alongside this increased potency, we're also implementing a shared cooldown on rapid stasis shard creation. Wow. This cooldown is intended to be pretty generous. You have to if it's shared. And primarily, because you're also competing with other people. You should be able to pick it up, but I don't know. I can see situations where one person can run it for everyone. I don't know. Primarily limits cases of oppressive behavior. Okay, there you go. Like triple behemoth trial squads. Yeah, that's not what I was thinking about being oppressive. All harvest aspects, let's be honest, people are doing this with Riven too. All harvest aspects added new behavior. While Grim, Tectonic, or Glacial Harvest is equipped, Stasis Shards now grants a small amount of health and stack armor. Neat. Large Stasis Shards from Grim Harvest grant more health and Frost Arc. So there's different sizes. I don't know if that was the case. I never paid attention. Tectonic Harvest now creates a Stasis Shard when shattering a frozen target in addition to shattering Stasis Crystals. Neat. Our intention is that Frost Armor can be granted through a variety of resources, or sources should I say. As part of this, we've updated Renewal Graphs and Baldorzo's Wraith Weavers to directly grant Frost Armor, rather than their own custom damage resistance or Stasis Shard Overshield. Okay, I don't remember what currently renewals. I think renewals is like 25% damage resistance. I'm not for sure if this is a buff or a nerf. I have to check up on that. Renewal Grass replace generic damage resistance with Frost Armor. On entering your Dustfill grenade volume, you or your allies gain a stack of Frost Armor. About every 0.9 seconds while in the volume, an additional Frost Armor is granted, resetting your timer. That is interesting. I mean, 0.9 seconds isn't a lot, but if you are in the heat of battle, every second can count. I don't know. This is something we'll have to play with. Baldor's Wraith Weavers, which I never use, replace Stasis Overshield with Frost Armor when you activate your Rift or your Winter Wraith Shatter attack. Again, I never used it. But this is whenever you activate your Rift. So you're going to get an Overshield for that seems interesting. How many stacks though? How many stacks of Frost Armor are you going to get? That's what's not being said here. To help increase players' capabilities to generate Stasis Shards, we've created a brand new fragment that offers a straightforward method that can slot into many different builds. Whisper of Chill. Thank God we're getting new fragments. Holy crap. We're actually getting improvement to Buildcraft. Thank you. Whisper of Chill. Stasis weapon final blows have a chance to create a Stasis Shard. Thank you. That makes so much sense. There is now a reason to actually care about having good stasis weapons outside of like Riptide or Deliverance or Conditioned Finality. Like there's a good, you want to use stasis now. There's a competition because you can build into it better. Thank you, Bungie. That's finally a W. As part of this effort, we've also reworked Whisper of Chains. The fragment has been a popular choice since its inception due to its ease of use and stat bonuses. I smell Nerf. However, its gameplay benefit was frequently difficult to read and ran counter to core gameplay loops revolving around creating and destroying crystals and the core human compulsion to destroy every crystal you see. True. Even your blueberries will destroy your crystals. To make Whisper of Chains fully successful, it required cooperation from Teamworks in a way that sometimes took success out of the user's hands. This resulted in situations where, by shattering a stasis crystal for damage, players could unknowingly reduce their or their teammates' combat effectiveness. This introduced negative social friction that we wanted to remove outright. Yeah, thank you. Anything that involves your teammates screwing you over, you should remove from the game. We've pivoted Whisper of Chains to instead focus on chaining creation of stasis shards and frost armor when paired with harvest aspect. No longer grants passive damage resistant when near. Ooh. Okay, now grants a chance to create a stasis shard when defeating a target while you have one or more stacks. They're mowing, by the way. I don't know if you guys hear that. So if you hear background mowing, I apologize. So this seems like a nerf, because you don't just get damage resistance. You have to already have it. It's a chance. It's not even guaranteed. This was guaranteed. This is not guaranteed. And you already have to have stacks. You have to already have it. So this is a nerf. Do not be fooled where they think, well, it's not really fair to you guys. So we want to make sure that you guys aren't being hurt, because Whisper of Chains was hurting you guys. Screw you. It's a nerf. Next on our list of Frost Armor Fragment reworks and Whisper of Fractures, with stasis shards granting melee energy as a base behavior, relying on a difficult to read passive melee energy regeneration bonus felt like a place we could reduce overlap and build in support for new keyword. Whisper of Fractures no longer increases melee energy regeneration while surrounded by enemies, now grants a stack of armor when you shatter any frozen target with a melee. This is both a buff and a nerf. It's a buff because there's more interaction in general in the subclass, but it's a nerf because this was just you are using the subclass. You're just getting this intrinsic bonus. Yeah, this is straight a nerf, like a huge nerf, but it's a buff in synergy. Buff and synergy, nerf all together though, in my opinion, because it says a stack, but it's not telling you how many stacks. A stack. Is that two? Is it just one? If it's one stack, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Our final fragment rework is Whisper of Torment. This fragment is a sleeper pick that does its job well, but its actual output has too many variables to keep track of and required that the player be at critical health for its largest bonus. So we're simplifying things a bit. Whisper of Torment. Grenade energy gains are no longer dependent on your current health value. Base grenade energy regeneration amount per incoming damage event increased from 5 to 7%. While you have Frost Armor, energy per damage event increased from 7 to 12%. This seems like a buff. So definitely a buff. Finally, by the way, I'm kind of seeing like a pattern. I think I have to check because I have not seen Prismatic, but I feel like some of these fragments that are part of the Prismatic kit are being buffed, while the ones that aren't are being nerfed. So we'll have to see how that works out. Because you got to remember, some of these fragments are going to be cross-applying with Prismatic, so they don't want Prismatic to be overly broken. Finally, we've created one more brand new stasis fragment, Whisper of Reversal. Here's my Uno card. It's a close combat tool for our Frost Armor users, adding a chance for additional crowd control if you're willing to take the risk. Whisper of Reversal. While you have Frost Armor, dealing or receiving physical damage or melee, i.e. not projectile melee, damage slows your victim or your attacker. So that seems more like a PvP. They hit you, they're too slow to do a second shot, and you just go pop, pop. Or you turn around and shock them in the face. Rip Titans, or also W Titans, because you're going to be able to have people punch you back after you punch them, and, well, they're just going to die. For PvE, I don't think so. I don't see this being as exciting. I don't. This might be good for champions, but in GMs, you're just gonna die unless this is really cranking up your resistance, which doesn't seem like it. You're just gonna die from anything that smashes or backhands you. Now let's talk Shatter. While we want the focus of stasis to be primarily in high-value crowd control abilities, in the current sandbox, shattering a frozen target doesn't always result in the payout that other damage types are able to deliver with the capstone keywords. Incandescent. So especially in high difficulty activities, misjudging your ability to capitalize on a freeze can lead to dire consequences. You would just die. That's the consequences. You would just die. To help address this, we're bumping base shatter damage versus combatants from 200 to 400. Oh my god. No, could you stop? Just go away. Go away. Go away. Jesus, you're annoying. All right. Stasis. It's annoying because it would always pull me over. Go away. Stasis shatter. Increased to 2 to 400. This does not affect stasis crystal detonations, but simultaneously we're fixing an issue where boss combatants receive double damage from auto shattering, so we don't quadruple the shatter damage. So I thought that was an issue. I thought that was it. Oh wait, double damage. I knew it took damage. I didn't realize it was double damage. Shatter. Okay, fixed an issue where boss auto shattering were being hit by 2 instances of shatter damage. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a thing. Fixed an issue where players in an active super would show immune damage flyouts when automatically breaking out stasis freeze. Okay, that's it for our general stasis updates. In addition to these changes, we made a number of up-to-date subclass specific stasis abilities. Let's go through the classes. Jesus, I'm already winded by reading this. Warlock. In front, we believe that Shadebinders are largely in a good shape across all games. Relative to our other stasis subclasses, therefore, we've limited our focus here. We've added a small boost to Ice Flare Bolt's ability to lock down rooms over the course of combat encounters. Ice Flare Bolts increase maximum number of Seekers created before going on cooldown from 5 to 7. Okay, that's a buff. But I also think this is part of the prismatic kit. But I'll take it. If I do stasis, it's 100% Warlock. Even though I'm not a Warlock main, I will be a Stacy Lock. Hunter. Let's talk Revenant. With Winter Shroud included in the prismatic Hunter kit, we knew we needed to increase its viability in high difficult content. Yes, because that sucks. We're getting up close and personal gets much riskier. We also wanted to provide a smoother gameplay loop between Winter Shroud and other Revenant abilities. We've updated Winter Shroud to provide a moderate boost to class ability regeneration when you slow a target from any source and keyword any source, and added a brief window of damage reduction from PvE combatants when activated. So Riptide, Deliverance, those are going to be popping. Winter Shroud added new behavior. Slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration. Bonus is reduced in PvP, obviously. Now grants PvE damage reduction when activated. But how much, though? That's... So is it like Slice? Is that the damage reduction? Like 30%, 40%? What is that? Touch of Winter has been widely used by our Stasis Hunter players since its introduction in the season of the Splicer, primarily when paired with Dustfield Grenades for high uptime zone denial or Glacier Grenade for Shatter Dive combos. The latter has struggled in PvE content in recent seasons as the sandbox has matured. So we're making a targeted change to increase its PvE potency without returning to an era of the Crucible where you had to fear rounding any corner into a barrage of ice. Thank you. In addition, Touch of Winter's Cold Snap Grenade upgrade has been widely underused since its inception. So we're implementing a large rework to its functionality. Yeah, Cold Snap has kind of been like a meme. Touch of Winter Glacial Grenade. Add an additional stasis crystal to the ring formation. Increases total count from 6 to 7. That is enough to get you a full stack of frost armor. So that's actually kind of neat. Glacial Grenade Ring now forms over 2.7 seconds rather than instantly. Ooh. That's a nerf. Cold Snap Grenades no longer chains an additional time while Touch of Winter is equipped. Ooh. That's a nerf. Instead, Seekers now duplicate when they freeze the target. Wait. They no longer... They duplicate. So if it goes to like one target, it won't, it'll just, so is it going to just, so it duplicates and it'll send one to something else? I'm confused how that is working. My brain is fried. Like there's a reason why I'm out for the summer. My brain's fried. Someone who's not fried can tell me if this is a buff or nerf. I'm trying to like conceptualize this. Second and third seeker chains now create a medium and large stasis crystal respectively, rather than every chain creating a small crystal. Cool. So that's a buff. While Silence and Squall are still effective at locking down rooms full of enemies, we've done a small touch-up on its ability to roam the battlefield and how quickly it converts from a slow to a freeze on PvE combatants. We think this will increase its viability in target-rich environments. Silence and Squall increased Squall maximum travel speed by 10%. Squall Storm now slows down when any target is within its area of effect. It's reduced instances where it could overshoot its target. Increased damage and slow tick rate versus PvE combatants by 40%, bringing its freeze time from approximately 0.8 seconds to negative. Oh my god! So it's almost like instant like, sucker, you're frozen. Titan. For our behemoth players, we're making several quality of life improvements. We're making Shiver Strike and Glacial Quake more reliable, improving the ease of use of Diamond Lances to fit into the cadence of combat on the Prismatic Titan, and tweaking Cryoclasm to be more intuitive. Shiver Strike is a melee ability with a high barrier to entry than most of our roster. And while that is intended at a high level, there are instances where it can misread the player's intent and fail to find a target as a result. To help mitigate this, we increase its ability to find and lunge toward targets in its now larger search area and are increasing its damage versus PvE targets. These changes also affect the Glacial Quake light attack. In addition, Glacial Quake will now auto sprint when the player starts moving forward, so no more awkwardly bashing your face into a crystal you were meaning to shatter after performing a heavy slam. Thank God. That was like so stupid. So stupid. Shiver Strike. Increased damage versus PvE by 10%. Increased a size of search area 50%. Increased maximum lunge from 7 degrees to 21 degrees. Glacial Quake now automatically begins sprinting when the player throttles forward. Juice. We love to see that. We loved it. All right. We've had a number of liberations on Cryoclasm since its initial release in Beyond Light, with its current version requiring a sprint windup to activate. While this solved the behemoth mobility balance issue at the time, it resulted in a state where it can be easy to mistime your slide just before Cryoclasm is ready to activate. To address this, we're returning to a middle ground between Cryoclasm's original release and now, removing the sprint requirement for implementing a cooldown after a single extended slide. Neat. For Diamond Lance, we're making a couple of quality of life changes to help make it easier to pick up on the battlefield and are generally improving its ease of use by increasing the size of its thrown projectile detonation versus all targets and its slam versus PvE combatants. I've never slammed with it. I forgot that was even a thing. It's like not very many people actually use lances anymore. Increased thrown of the lance by 5 meters. From the slam detonation radius is 6.75. It's going to 8. Lance now shatters stasis crystals on direct impact. It should have done that from the beginning. Reduced pickup interaction time from 0.2 to literally a 0.1 second. Lance pickup radius 0.7 to 3 meters. And that's it. Matching Strand Tangle. So they're trying to make it competitive against Strand, which it should be. Well of Radiance and Ward of Dawn. We knew this was coming. Back in November, we briefly touched on Well of Radiance, Ward of Dawn, and how we were evaluating their place in the sandbox. With the launch of the final shape, we're making some large changes to both these supers to push them into more distinct identities and to reduce the fire for forget nature of Well of Radiance. Well of Radiance, core fantasy, has always been a supercharged healing and powering rift combo, offering a rally point for your fire team during moments of focus. In its current form, its healing and damage resistance offer effective invulnerability. Yes, unless you crank up the damage to 5,000, it happens. Which removes any other defensive option from consideration on top of providing a sizable boost to your fire team's offensive output. We've chosen to push Well of Radiance further towards that offensive capability by allowing its radiance to persist for a short duration after the players leave the well. We're also putting back on its defensive output, both damage resistance and healing rate, by a significant margin. Well of Radiance now grants 8 seconds when player exits the Well of Radiance area. So you have to leave it now. Reduced player survivability while standing in the well aura, reducing healings per second from 100 to 50, matching Restoration 2. Increased heal on cast from 40 to 30 health points. So it's an increase, but on cast, is it for everyone or the person that cast it? Reduce damage resistance versus non-boss from 40 to 20%. Reduce damage resistance versus boss combatants from 40 to 10%. Note, damage resistance versus enemies players is unchanged. Increased maximum orbs of power from defeating targets while your Well of Radiance from 4 to 5. This is not what I expected. Honestly, I don't run well. I'm not a I'm not a warlock anymore. I'm a hunter. I thought they would just remove the damage and leave the healing, or that's what I expected. I think Well of Radiance is dead. They might as well just removed it from the game. I don't see anyone who will actually use this. I mean, it will probably still be used, but I think people are going to try to find other ways of survivability, because now you had this benefit. 8 seconds. Most encounters last longer than 8 seconds. People are going to try to find other ways to survive without Well. I think Well is a net negative now. I do not agree with this. I agreed that Well need to be nerfed. I don't agree. I hate this policy of let's nerf it to the ground, and that's what they did. Well, sucks to be a warlock. Sucks for you guys. Ward of Dawn, on the other hand, it's meant to be a highly defensible, safe haven for you and your team. In practice, our combat encounters don't have a lot of opportunities for this type of gameplay to shine, so we're making a change to allow War of Dawn to provide defensive capabilities while fighting around the dome, not just in it. Oh my god, we're going back to D1 meta, where Titans are now the Bubble Boys. Welcome back, Titans. Put down your hammers and pick up your shields, because it's Bubble Boy time. And someone's going to be out there like, I've always been Bubble Boy. Bubble Boy for life. All right, let's go back. Let's see. We're making changes. So being around it, Dawn, we're also reworking Armor of Light to make your current health state while in the Dome of Ward of Dawn more understandable. And we're pushing Ward of Dawn away from its current offensive capabilities, unless you specifically build into it. Armor of Light. Removed Armor of Light Overshield. Ward of Dawn now immediately applies a full Void Overshield to the caster and allies that enter Dome. That might be a nerf though, because Void Overshield is very weak. Like, it is. It's probably it's very weak. Armor of Light now grants additional damage resistance to players inside of Ward of Dawn, 30% versus enemy players and 60% versus enemy combatants. Oh my god, it is still a buff. Effective health of players inside of War of Dawn remains roughly the same as it was before PvE combatants. Effective health of players inside the War of Dawn is significantly lower than it was before versus other players in PvP. There's your PvP nerf, and cannot be further increased by stacking bastion barricades inside the ward to gain. Oh my god, PvP, you are free from the shackles of Well and Bubbles. That means conditional finality actually might be nerfed in the future. That's sad. Allies, because there's no longer need that tool's no longer there or necessary to have. All right. No longer provides weapons of light by default. Ooh, this behavior has been removed to the benefits of Helm of Saint 14. That's not a big deal. Like, what else? Like, if you're popping your one and done super. By the way, can you hot swap this off? Because if you can, this is even easier than it ever been before. The Ward of Dawncaster now generates additional orbs of power by defeating enemies with melee damages in or near their bubble. Oh my god, Bubble Boys. You rejoice. Allies near the Ward of Dawn now have Void Overshield trickled on over time, similar to the volume behind a bastion. This seems kind of rough. That's also a nerf, because instead of having immediate protection, now you have to like taking damage will nullify it. So that's rough. Yeah, it's both a buff, a nerf to PvP, but also a nerf in PvE. So we'll have to see. 60% though. So you get the resistance and the overshield. It's a wombo combo. I still think the overshield's still a nerf though. Additionally, we've seen that the supers above and the burst damage supers in the same tier have increasingly dominated the Crucible landscape due to their uptime. While we do want to maintain some texture across a match when supers become available, the delta is currently a bit too high, especially in 3v3 game modes. To reduce this a bit, we're making a change to all supers with the final shape. While different types of supers will have different passive recharge times, all supers will now use the same damage rechargers. Oh my god, is this a buff or a nerf? This means that no matter what super you have equipped, dealing a specific amount of damage to a specific enemy type will result in the same amount of super energy granted. Whereas previously, that value could vary by about 30%. This effectively increased the real-world uptime of our roaming supers in the slowest recharge tier and reduces the uptime of our fastest recharging burst supers. Now so Golden Gun, Throwing Knives, Nova, Chaos War, I guess, no, not Chaos Warp, Kamehameha for Warlock. All those are getting nerfed, like in duration, like the time it takes to recharge. But roaming supers, which are just ass in general, are getting buffed. I still think they're going to be ass, but okay. Arc subclasses. In general, Arc Strider has found a solid niche in the middle level PV content, but struggles to execute its gameplay loop at our highest tier of challenge, its ass. With a new super and aspect on the way, we're not making any large changes to the kit with this release, but we plan to evaluate how it's feeling with the full package as we go. For now, we focus on adding keyword utility to Arc Staff, increasing the uptime of Disorienting Blow to make it a stronger choice in comparison to Combination Blow. We're also increasing players' ability to survive when using Tempest Strike, which now grants a short duration of PvE damage resistance. Arc Staff, heavy palm strike attacks and heavy air slams blind enemies. That's okay. Why are we wasting supers for ad clear? But okay. Disorienting Blow, decreased base cool time from 100 seconds to 90. Tempest Strike added additional damage resistance versus PvE combatants when activated, lingering for a short duration after the attack. Warlocks, we've made a corresponding change to Stormcaller's Lightning Surge in the same vein, with more survivability when you aggressively teleport into groups of enemies. We've also increased the proximity detonation volume. We call this an arming shape, or the ball lightning, fixing an issue where the projectile would pass over a target that could damage but failed to detonate. Lightning Surge added additional damage resistance versus PvE combatants when activated, lingering for a short duration after they're attacked. All Lightning, the final arming shape by 30%. Fixed an issue where the arming shape was offset upward. Okay. Chain Lightning has been a staple of Stormcaller's identity since its inception as an upgrade to the Thunderstrike melee in the original Destiny. With the introduction of Jolt and Seasonal Plunder and its propagation across the sandbox, however, it started to feel a bit left behind. We've increased the damage dealt by its chain by 100% to help it increase its effectiveness against crowds of enemies and make it feel like a worthier option in comparison to Warlock's mini range. Oh my god, increased secondary chain projectile base from 27 to 54. Okay, that doesn't sound as exciting. Increase the damage dealt by chains 100%. I don't know, 54 damage isn't like the most impressive, so I don't know, we'll see. Titan, like with the Tempest Strike for Hunters and Lightning Surge for Warlocks, we're implementing the same extra damage resistance via PvE combatants during the Thunderclap windup to help Titans stand their ground during a full charge. However, because Thunderclap doesn't allow Titans to move until the strike is finished, we're increasing both the minimum and maximum damage output to help offset the trade-off and mobility against PvE combatants. We've also increased the maximum damage versus players to ensure that a fully charged Thunderclap can overcome player damage resistance overshield. One shot! Okay, so PvE. When activated, lingering, you get damage resistance Increase minimum by 20%, maximum by 30%, and in PvP, you're looking at 14%. It's been difficult for us to find a solid place for knockout aspect across the game. In part, this is due to the harsh difference in the value of unstunning passive health regeneration and different combat environments. Knockout's passive health regeneration is very quick at max recovery, but can be interrupted. Generally, in PvP encounters, players are dramatically less likely to take chip damage after resolution of an engagement, resulting in a much more health recovery than we think is comfortable. By contrast, with the increased number of enemies in PvE encounters, Knockout's passive healing can feel ineffectual because there are many more sources of incoming damage in a given moment. To help address this, we're reworking the way Knockout's healing works altogether. Rather than unstunning passive regeneration, defeating enemies with melee attacks now grants a chunk of health in a very short window, 0.1 seconds. And that chunk of health increases based on the type of target you defeat. We're also increasing the bonus damage granted to power melee damage versus combatants while knockout is active. Okay, increased damage granted to PvE from 25 to 50%. Oh my God. Are we about to have Synthoceps on Arc? Are Arc Titans about to pop off? Rework healing behavior. No longer unstuns health regeneration on melee defeats. Now instantly gives you a chunk, 30 points. Minor, 50 points. Major, 75%. Champion, 100 points of health. So you can have the balls to face a champion and punch it in the face, and you get 100 points back. Interesting. With update 6.3.05 in January, we implemented a change to drastically reduce the travel speed of Touch of Thunder's Storm Grenade to reduce its potency across the board, with a specific focus on the Crucible. We're not in love with how that's shaken out in the PvE game modes, so we're making a targeted change to increase its speed only when tracking PvE combatants. This will help it better roam across an encounter space and catch multiple targets. Yeah, because no one uses it anymore because it's trash. Storm Grenade will chase targets. That's essentially what it is. Keeping with Touch of Thunder, its Lightning Grenade upgrade is currently a bit too spicy. Yes, it's very too strong. So we're making a change here to curb the amount of immediate burst damage it can deal, especially outside of its actual effective detonation range. Following this change, Lightning Grenade will apply its jolt immediately after initial damage occurs, preventing the jolt from zapping its chain lightning instant on creation. Okay, cool. We'll see how this plays out. All right. Arc Grenade. Storm Grenade is also getting a bit of a boost outside of Touch of Thunder variant. We're increasing the base version versus PvE combatants by 20%. Skip Grenades is getting a 15% boost in its PvE damage. We're also increasing Arc Bolt Grenades versus PvEs by 15%. Give it a shot on Prismatic Hunter and let us know how it's feeling. Storm Grenade is getting buffed, which is nice. I think it got nerfed because of Titan. Skip Grenade. I don't know if I've ever seen people use skip grenades in PvE. Arc Bolt was kind of used-ish, not a lot. This will be interesting to see. Arc Fragments. Wrapping up Arc, we're making some quality of life changes to our Fragment suite. Spark of Recharge is one of the few sources of direct ability regeneration outside of iconic traces in the Arc subclass kit, and we feel it's currently too difficult to make use of it. So while it will still initially activate when becoming critically wounded, we're extending the duration of its benefits until the player returns to full health, rather than deactivating as soon as the player has any shield. Spark of Recharge. Ability regeneration bonus now persists until the player returns to full shield, rather than deactivating on partial or on recharge. Spark of Beacons has always been relatively popular and has spiked in usage with the release of Indebted Kindness. Who would have thought? We don't mind the spike and are extending Spark of Beacons activation triggers to include arc power weapons as well. Time to break. Oh, Bungie, you troll. Okay, that's funny. People hate this. They're seething right now. Time to break out Thunderlord. Spark of Beacons now also triggers on defeating targets with power weapons, arc power weapons. Thank you. You know what? I respect them for that. And honestly, they know that Arc needs love, so why nerf the one thing that people are even using Arc for? Spark of Frequency also grants 15% weapon stability on powered melee hit in addition to its reload benefits. Neat. Solar subclasses. We already know what one's being nerfed. We might as well know what's going on with the rest of the package. For Solar, in addition to its Well of Radiance changes detailed above, we're making some targeted improvements to abilities that are included, with Prismatic as well as making some improvements to standalone abilities that need some love. Hunter, for our gunslinger friends, we're taking a look at the lightweight knife, which has struggled to find an identity for itself. Our overall goal for this ability is to improve a low barrier to entry melee, but a payoff for high skill usage. However, it's not currently hitting our fantasy bar. With the release of the final shape, this melee is getting a small rework. It now has 2 melee charges by default and can be thrown back to back dramatically faster. Now has 2 increased animation by 33%, reduced suppressed time between throws, so both knives can be thrown very quickly. Note, the additional melee charge does not stack with Fidian Space. Due to the exotic's unique energy recharge behavior, we'll be monitoring this and evaluating how things are playing once things go live. So they don't stack. We're good. All right, to support this, we're also updating Knock 'em Down's internal cooldown on its melee refund. This was initially intended to prevent situations where Knife Trick could refund many charges at once. With the lightweight knife update, we felt it was important to enable a faster cadence of potential refunds. Reduce internal cooldown on throwing knife refunds from 1 second to 0.2 seconds. Ooh. Some raid teams have a niche strategy of hunters fully stacking Golden Gun marksmen to instantly refund each other's supers with the orbs of power created on precision hit, in combination with the additional super energy granted or pickup by Star Eater skills. While we always appreciate this kind of build crafting ingenuity, you know what? I give up. This level of super chaining isn't very healthy for the game. Therefore, we're reducing the strength of orbs created by Golden Gun, Marksman Precision Hit perk, and making some target adjustments to the specific combination noted above. Golden Gun Marksman. Reduce strength orbs as follows. When hitting non-boss enemies, it's going from 0.75 times to 0.5 on normal super. When hitting boss enemies, reducing from 0.75 to 0.4. When hitting boss enemies while Star Eater Scales is equipped, reduce strength to even 3.5 of a normal super. That is a nerf. Luckily, my team is too prideful to try to do strats like that. Like they have their characters they want to play. Even if it would mean we do things faster by doing stuff like this, they don't want to do it. So this is really not going to impact me. It will impact chaining other supers, like helping people get well faster. Oh, wait. I don't have to worry about that anymore either. Shame. Shame. All right, Titan. For our Sunbreakers, we're taking a look at concentration. No! I like playing this on my Titan. We made improvements to concentration in update 7.53. That landed pretty well, but with its inclusion in Prismatic, we want to make sure concentration could stand on its own without relying on Roaring Flames. Oh wait, is this going to be a buff? We also want it to have some interesting interactions with other Prismatic Titan abilities. As a result, we've increased the damage of ignitions. Oh my god. Versus PV combatants and further increased its consistency against floating targets. You'll still need to be you still need a different tool to take down a pesky Grim, but a Servitor or a Shank should cause less frustration. Concentration. Slam's attack now shatter stasis. This should be that way because it's fire versus ice. Thematically, it makes sense. Ignitions generated now deal 20% more. Oh my god. Fixed an issue where concentrated slam was sometimes unable to damage floating targets, and intended PV damage resistance was not being applied. Cool. Listen, I'm not a Titan main, but I love using my concentration slam. I love being Hulk smash with fire and fury, baby. Fire and fury. I will Hulk smash things to death. I'm all about this. Titans rejoice. You know what? Keep your hammers. You need your hammers and your bubbles. Titan's eating good. Yes, there's some nerfs in here, but Titan's eating good. Another Sunbreaker ability featured on the Prismatic Titan is Hammer of Soul, which we feel is too reliant on the additional damage granted from sunspots created by Soul Invictus. We're making a change to Hammer of Soul that only affects the super when Soul Invictus isn't equipped. This will increase the number of shrapnel submissions created on impact based on the primary projectile's lifetime and the damage that submission deals. Increase projectile submission count. Detonates within the first 0.7 seconds. Now creates 4, up from 3. Projectile detonates 0.7 seconds of its lifetime, from 6 up from 5. Note, when Soul Invictus is equipped, only 3 shrapnel submissions are created, regardless of flight time. Okay. Shrapnel submissions now deal additional damage when Soul Invictus is not equipped, with the damage increasing after the first. Why is it so? We want to make it. Isn't it interesting that we're taking a subclass that's built from other subclasses, but we're intentionally buffing them on the other subclass, so you'll buy the expansion to play the other subclass that is totally just made of other subclasses. I mean, not made of other subclasses. But moving on, Swarm Grenade. Finally, a few weeks ago, we revealed the abilities coming with each prismatic subclass, and some hunters raised an eyebrow at the inclusion of Swarm Grenade. We agree, so we have boosted Swarm Grenade's ease of use and PvE damage output to make sure it shines in that kit. Swarm Grenade tracks shape from 4 meters to 6, increase lingering duration from 7 to 8 seconds to 10 to 11 seconds, increase damage by 20%. I forgot Swarm Grenade exists, to be honest. Outside of PvE, like, I forgot it existed. Void subclasses. Oh, please don't nerf my baby. Please don't nerf my Gerfalcon babies. Please don't do it. Please, Bungie, don't do it. Hunter. Night Suckers are generally in a pretty strong place, as seen by their high popularity and onslaught. A large portion of that is driven by the potency of Shadow Shot, its ability to lock down hordes of incoming enemies, and not necessarily in its neutral game offering. So we're making a few changes to help shore up that side. With the release of Void 3.0, we removed the Corrosive Smoke melee ability in favor of the Snare Bomb, leaning further into the trap-laying trickster fantasy. We want to walk that back a little bit and are baking in small escalating damage over time to the Snare Bomb's now longer smoke volume. This will help Night Stalkers capitalize on incapacitating enemies caught in their trap. These changes also apply to smoke volume created by Trapper's Ambush. Snare increases duration from 3 to 5, now applies small damage. Neat. Trapper Ambush increased lingering duration of smoke from 4.5 to 6. Neat. Now applies Snare Bomb's damage over time. Neat. Fix an issue where Trapper's Ambush smoke could be obstructed by ground geometry. Neat. We're also updating Stylish Executioner to now allow its weakening effect while active to apply to glaive. What? I can be an invisible glaive assassin? Gerfalcons, baby! Gerfalcons! Neat. Stylish Executioner. Weaken effect. Yeah, that's neat. All right. It was scary, but we're okay. We're okay, Void Hunters. We're not cooked. We're good. Titan. For Sentinels, we focused on large consistency paths for the shield throw melee attack. While we want this to feel weighty and impactful, our previous passes haven't done enough to make it able to deal with groups of minor combatants. We're taking a much stronger swing here, resulting in a much larger improvement to its consistency. We're also increasing its PvE damage to help ensure that any combatants who are hit have a meaningful dent left in them. I get what you did there, because you're throwing the shield. I see what they did there. All right, shield throw. Increase maximum bounce from 4 to 5. Increase maximum lifetime from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. Now increases its tracking shape and strength after each bounce, increasing its ability to consistently find a new target. Slightly increased gravity and decreased thrust speed with each bounce. Increased damage versus PvE by 20%. Holy crap, that's a lot. That's actually pretty for a shield throw. That's crazy. We're also making a small change to Offensive Bulwark. This is particularly a preventive fix to stop players from getting into a bad timer state similar to Ember Empyrean issue resolved earlier this season, so we're making a quality of life change to offset it. Can now only extend Void Overshield timer to its normal maximum duration to prevent an issue where players could go into a bad timer state. Now regenerates a small portion of your active Void Shield with each melee defeat. Let me know, Void Titans, if any of you exist out there, how you feel about that. Maybe in PvP you understand, but PvE, let me know. Warlock, finally, our Void Walkers are getting a number of improvements. Starting with Chaos Accelerant, its overcharged magnetic grenade has fallen by the wayside since its inception as a handheld supernova with Forsaken. To help remedy this, we're increasing its damage and output knockback capability as well as its uptime. Chaos Accelerant, charged magnetic grenade, increased maximum intensity of physical knockback by 10%. Increased PvE damage by 20%. Now passively decreases your magnetic cooldown by 10% while Chaos Accelerant is equipped. Okay. Oh, that's neat. From the first minute of your experience with Prismatic, Pocket Singularity will be available to equip and use. A piece of feedback we've heard for a while now is that Pocket Singularity struggles in PvE or high-level PvE content, and we agree. While we want its overall primary fantasy to remain displacement and knockback, we're giving it a sizable damage increase versus combatants. It's being increased by 50%. That's pretty meaningful. 50% is huge. Finally, we're taking a look at Nova Bomb to improve its overall damage output without the need of a super boosting exotic. For Cataclysm Nova Bomb, we're increasing its maximum second seeker count and making it more consistent. And for Vortex Nova Bomb, we're increasing the lifetime of the lingering damage over time volume. Nova Bomb, the Cataclysm variant, 4 to 6 seekers. Fix an issue where seekers could impact the environment on creation. Just stupid. Vortex variants, increase vortex duration from 7 to 10. Fix an issue where the lingering visual effect we're shutting off early. Strand subclasses, I smell nerfs. Titans, I smell nerfs coming your way. Last up is Strand, which has remained a popular pick since its introduction last year of Lightfall. Our focus for Strand with this balance pass is primarily to bring in outliers at both the top and very bottom end of the spectrum, rather than the large reworks we've seen with other damage types. As we evaluate how these changes are feeling and how the Strand abilities included with the Prismatic are playing, we'll be taking another look in the future. Before we get into individual subclasses, the first outlier we'd like to address is Thread of Warding Fragment. While we appreciate the defensive value it provides by granting Woven Mail, it is currently too potent. It overshadows the role of Berserkers into the fray aspect of being the best source of Woven Mail for your team. Reduce Woven Mail duration on the ore pickup from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. It is a nerf, but I still think people will use it. Hunter. Thread Runners and Snaring Slam has remained popular throughout Strand's life. I actually don't use Slam. I'm going to be honest, I don't use it. It has seen a small bump in PvE popularity following the increased uptime post. However, it's currently too powerful against players. Yes, it is, with a detonation radius that is very difficult for victims to understand. So we're reducing its overall area of effect. Detonation versus enemy players is now a cylinder with 6.5 meter radius, rather than a sphere with 8 meter radius. Fewer instances of victims correctly attempting to counterplay by jumping, but being caught by the ensnaring slam. Yeah, this was BS. So suck it, you PvP lords, suck it. Oh no, it's whatever. Similarly, the thread spike is a little too potent against enemy players, with a very forgiving tracking and high damage for its ease of use. So we're making a small reduction to its damage versus enemy players. Reduce damage versus players from 79 to 70. Catching your threaded spike no longer breaks invisibility. Interesting. Okay. That is definitely a prismatic change. Warlock. For Brood Weavers, our focus for this update is Weave Caller. One major piece of feedback is that threadling uptime for Brood Weavers doesn't match to the fantasy, with Rift cooldown times being relatively too long to match the combat utility of heal or damage increase. Weaver's Call could feel too spiky in its output with a lot of downtime. We agree with the feedback and are updating Weaver's Call to allow it to generate purge threadlings through normal gameplay, namely by defeating targets with any source strand. Huge! Huge! Weaver's Call now adds new behavior. The damage can be formed from any source, including other threadlings. Huge. I mean, I've been using threadling Warlock with final message, whatever it's called. And honestly, it feels really good with like the artifact mods. And one of my concerns is this is going to go back to being poo-poo once those artifact mods. But it seems like they're kind of baking some of that in by allowing you to produce more threadlings. Grapple, Tangle, and Melee. Before we get into Berserker, let's take a pit stop and talk about Grapple Tangles and Grapple Melee. When we initially built the Grapple Tangle as part of the Widow Silk aspect, we intended for it to be used primarily as a traversal tool, allowing hunters to give their fire team a fast grapple path through combat spaces. However, that intention was quickly subverted, and we now see Grapple Tangles primarily used to fuel an infinite number of high output grapple melees, particularly on Berserkers. We want to keep some degree of freedom in how Grapple Tangles are used, but we don't believe that using a single attack back to back like this is particularly interesting or healthy gameplay. So we're taking a few steps to address it. First, Grapple Tangles no longer fully refresh their duration when a player uses them. Instead, they have a flat number of seconds added to their timer, and that added timer decreases with each successful grapple to the same tangle. Oh my god. So no longer Titan cheesing, no longer refreshes, so it gets worse and worse the more you use it. Sag. But this is just grappling. This is also a nerf to damage. This is not just melee. What they're not talking about is you could also refresh. You could also refresh and be able to shoot your load essentially by reloading. So that's been nerfed to everyone. Additionally, grapple melee will no longer be able to be used after firing your weapon. This is primarily intended to reduce the number of difficult to understand grapple melee deaths in the Crucible, where players can grapple towards you, fire a single hand cannon shot, and then follow up with a grapple melee or a very fast cleanup. Good, that sucks. That will keep brain dead hunters from just flinging across the map, but also reduces the number of melee damage stacking sources, which can spiral out of control very quickly, that are easily achievable with grapple melees by removing 1-2 punch from the equation. Titan, here's your nerf. Outside of what you just got. Looking back to Berserker, while we're happy with how the fantasy has landed, there are a few balancing outliers that we want to address to make sure that it's not dramatically out of band with our other subclasses. Our changes here are relatively small and targeted at specific issues, and our goal is that the overall fantasy and gameplay style of the subclass remain intact throughout. Into the Fray offers a huge, high degree of survivability and melee ability uptime. We're generally okay with the survivability, as it's critical to the fantasy of the subclass, but in combination with the accelerating passive regeneration of Frenzy Blade as charges accumulate, the melee ability regeneration it provides is slightly too high, so we're bringing it down. Reduced melee regeneration from 4 to 3 times, unchanged in PvP. When we released the update last December, Banner of War was still new, and we didn't have time to holistically evaluate its potency. Now that we've had more time to sit with it, we have a few targeted changes to make. Having a relatively easy upkeep bonus fits well with the Berserker playstyle, but its lengthy duration results in a little too time pressure to fit the high action per minute gameplay loop, so we're reducing its maximum time length by 20%. Above, we mentioned that melee damage stacking could quickly spiral out of control, and Banner of War is a good example of the result. When paired with something like newly reworked Worm God Caress or the evergreen staple Synthoceps, Banner of War's relatively modest melee damage boost becomes a very large force multiplier for the melee damage boosts granted by those exotics. This isn't healthy long term. We still want Banner to provide some value to the players when using these exotics as their natural pairing, but we are implementing diminishing returns when either are active. Maximum timer from 30 to 24 seconds. Melee, glaive melee, super damage melee now have diminished returns with syntheseps from 1.4 to 1.15%, glaive bonus 1.25% to 1.25%, super bonus 1.4 to 1.2%. Now, notice it says nothing about swords. Swords are not in this equation. Swords are still on the menu, Titans. Melee and glaive melee damage bonuses now have diminished returns. Worm cods too, from 1.4% or times, sorry, to 1.1 times based on stat count. Just give me a percentage. Like, why do we have to do times? Just give me a number, not this times that you don't even know what the hell it actually means. Glaive melee bonuses decrease from 1.4 times to 1. Just give me a percent, goddammit. Finally, for Frenzy Blade, we've identified an issue where the melee lunge target point was being offset too far from the actual lunge target, resulting in some odd behavior when Frenzy Blade had very close ranges. Reduce the forward offset for melee lunge from the target to 0.4 or from 0.4 to 1.18. Conclusion. Woo! That's everything we have now. We're extremely excited to see that the next era Destiny 2 sandbox unfolds after the launch of the final shape, and we'll be closely monitoring the impact of these changes. As always, keep the feedback coming, and we'll see you next time. Holy crap, an hour of my life of talking. Jesus. Overall, we expected well to be nerfed. We expect it, not in the state that it is. Like, it is dead. It is dead. You are actively just using a barely better rift at this point. Like, you're better off using 2 rifts than using well. Honestly, having warlocks do an empowering and a regular rift and using some kind of exotic. That's it. Like, that's it. Ripperoni pepperoni. Titan's getting buffed and Bubble. Like, Bubble Boy is back. We're back to the D1 meta. Strand getting nerfed and buffed. Like, Warlock's eating good. Hunters are kind of eating good, but also there's some nerfs to them. Like, everyone's getting nerfed, being able to reload instantly and then blow your load during DPS. But Titans got a fat L. Like, they got buff in their solar, they got buffed in their void, they got buffed in arc, but they got slapped in strand. Like, the strand got slapped out of them. Overall, I mean, it could have been worse. I see they had to do a lot of buffs. Unironically, I expected more buffs because of Prismatic. When you take a subclass that really isn't new and because you're taking from other subclasses, I expected most things to be pretty good or made better. Nothing was really surprising outside of the literal press F to show respects to well. Like, holy crap, dude. Stasis is an improvement. We'll have to see how it really plays out. Frost armor sounds interesting. Outside of that, I mean, Bubble was probably the most surprising to me, seeing it actually be brought back to its E1 glory of Bubble Boys. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'm just going to wait to see how things play out. I think, well, I'm interested in how the rest of the game is going to feel with well being garbage, because the long encounters will slap you if you're dumb. So we'll see how it plays out for people. Until next time, I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and as always, game out.